going to let that sit for a second. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Hair Club. I'm Cole Woods, Partnerships Manager of MYAVANA's Hair and Beauty Network, and we're excited to bring you this important conversation about the shifting landscape of DEI in retail. Before we dive in, please take a moment to like this video and share it with your network. Drop your location in the chat to let us know where you're joining from today, and we'll be starting in a few seconds. Welcome to Virtual Hair Club, a monthly discussion series by MYAVANA where we tackle the most pressing topics in beauty, business, and beyond. I'm your host, Cole Woods, and tonight we're diving into a critical conversation, retail reckoning, navigating the shift in diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies. In recent weeks, we've witnessed significant changes in how major retailers approach DEI initiatives, particularly at Target, where the rollback of diversity programs has sparked controversy. This is happening across multiple retailers, reflecting a broader shift in the industry. Yet, amidst this challenging landscape, we have a remarkable story of breakthrough success to celebrate. Slay Hair has just become one of the first Black-owned braiding hair brands to secure distribution in Target stores nationwide, a true milestone worth recognizing. Tonight, we've assembled an incredible panel of industry leaders who are actively shaping the future of inclusive business practices in beauty and retail. If you're joining us for the first time, drop a 1 in the comments so we can welcome you. And if you're a returning viewer, let us know with a heart emoji. For those that are new to our living room experience, just click the chat bubble to the right of the TV screen and enter your name to begin chatting. Now, let me introduce our distinguished panelists. First up, we have our very own Candace Mitchell, CEO of MYAVANA, a hair AI technology company leading the charge in healthy hair care education by building an entire ecosystem for beauty and hair brands. Welcome, Candace.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about this conversation tonight.
Absolutely. Next, we have Melissa Hibbert, owner of the Beauty Founders Agency, a top multicultural brand strategy firm helping emerging beauty brands expand into major retailers, including the groundbreaking partnership that brought Slay Hair to Target. Welcome, Melissa.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all so much for this invitation. Hi, Candace.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Melissa. I want to hug you through the screen.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Next up, we have Diane Valentine, founder of Slay Hair and owner of Glow and Flow beauty supply stores, who has just made history again as the first Black-owned braiding hair brand in Target. Welcome, Diane.
Congratulations.
Next, we have Khadija Placid, founder of Women Empower Wellness, a community promoting holistic approaches to wellness for women of color.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here and excited to dive into this conversation.
Thank you for joining us. And last, but certainly not least, we have Ebony Kareem, founder of The Beauty Genie, innovating accessibility through beauty vending machines on college campuses and beyond.
Happy Wednesday. Good evening, ladies.
Hello.
Good evening.
Now, each of these leaders brings unique insights from their experiences, not just as Black women, but as entrepreneurs, innovators, and community builders in this beauty industry. And again, I'd like to start by congratulating Diane and Melissa on the monumental achievement of bringing Slay Hair to Target shelves, especially during such a pivotal moment in retail history. This accomplishment speaks volumes about your persistence, innovation, and excellence.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So let's jump right in. Let's begin by examining the current state of DEI in retail. We're seeing major shifts in how corporations approach diversity and inclusion, with Target's recent rollback of DEI initiatives reflecting a trend we're seeing across several major retailers. For the audience, if you have any questions throughout the conversation, just drop them in the comments. So I'll start with you, Melissa. As someone who has helped numerous brands secure retail partnerships, including the landmark deal for Slay Hair at Target, how are you navigating the changing attitudes towards DEI in major retail spaces?
Thank you for the question. This has been an interesting month. While we have worked really hard for a year and a half to manifest and also work really hard to bring this partnership to life, we launched during a turbulent time. And, for myself and Diane and her team and her family, while we wanted to celebrate this moment, we also are fighting in this moment. And when I say that, I mean that we are overcoming a lot of perception around DEI, even Slay's ability to show up in store at this particular time, and the challenges and the comments about, what they should be doing, and and lots of interesting comments around, whether they should remove their products, et cetera. We've navigated a lot. I know for me, I've gotten a ton of, honestly, interesting feedback just around the fact that I am contributing, right, to the interest of the corporate interest. And as a businesswoman, that's just not the case. But I stand 10 toes down in supporting Slay and all Black brands at retail. And I posted about that several times, that I stand in solidarity with them. For us, we are focused on the big picture. Black women-founded brands at mass retail means that they're the elite in their category. Make no mistake. Which means that they have great products, a great system, a great team, operations, supply chain management. They have great manufacturing relationships. If they can get what Target needs in terms of the partnership, they facilitate that at the highest level. So these brands deserve to be there. And I think that we're sort of missing the fact that this is the best of the best at retail. So why would we not support them? And so this has been an interesting time. We've learned a lot, but we have not stopped celebrating, because we understand what it took to get here. And we're while we understand that we cannot fight against politics and people's opinions, what we do know is that we can stand firm in what we believe in, and that is for Black wealth, generational wealth, and obviously very, very strong business ethics.
Amen. Amen to that. I felt like I was just listening to a post NBA championship press talk.
It feels like a full court press for sure. Basketball is a good analogy.
So beyond Target, how are other retailers approaching partnerships with Black-owned beauty brands in the current climate?
So what we know, we have not just received emails, but also phone calls from our partners at Target and TJ Maxx and others who have said that they have not in any way removed their commitment. They have not divested in the brands. Certainly, corporately, they've chosen to make certain changes in terms of language and how they show up. And also imagery, you're going to start to see that change as well. But their commitment to small brands and Black-owned brands has not changed. And so much so that Slay will be growing pretty rapidly by May. And I'll let Diane share more about that. But we've seen nothing but support and commitment, frequent communication. And that is very encouraging. We also received our email from our TJ Maxx teams, who've also said, and I shared a screenshot with Diane, like they've said they are not, they're in full support Nothing has changed. It's business as usual in terms of how they choose to intentionally support emerging and Black-owned brands in that space. And for me, that's what we can go on. Certainly, we don't have the bullhorn to say this to all the blogs and communities and spaces on social media who are challenging, our commitment to being on shelves. But we know that the business that we are in, the merchants that we work with, and the environment of retail right now is still very supportive of small brands, Black-owned brands, and emerging brands specifically.
Nice. So, I guess this is a great time to go to Diane. What does this milestone represent for Black entrepreneurship in today's retail environment?
Still can't hear you, babe.
Let's try to move and bring her back. Give it another shot. No.
Sounds like we may hear the background.
Well, I know her well enough, I can probably read her lips, but
Yeah.
I won't.
Right.
All right, Diane. Well, we'll come back to you. In the meantime, though, if you're a beauty brand owner watching, have you experienced changes in your retail partnerships recently? Let us know in the comments. Now, next, I want to go to Ebony. With the shifts in DEI approaches across retail, how has this influenced your strategy with beauty vending machines as an alternative retail channel?
This has definitely been something that's been on the forward focus of our mission as a brand prior, to the changing shifts within the federal government. And so initially we were more business to consumer focused, but now based on this shift, we have pivoted towards B2B enterprise focus. And what this will do will enable emerging Black beauty brands another retail outlet versus solely relying on big box chain retailers.
That's a great point. And you know what insights have you gained about how college students and younger consumers are responding to representation in beauty retail?
Well, right now, the Gen Z market is the primary consumer-based market right now. Gen Zers are very much politically driven. They're socially conscious. They're aware of the environment. They're conscious about what they put in their body, what they put on their body, and they get it, right? They're tired of the gimmicks. And they really are driven towards brands that they can relate to, right? So as we move across that collegiate space, specifically within the HBCU space, we've always known that there's been a lack of accessibility, right? And that's been the driving force, I'm sure, amongst most of the Black beauty founders, but specifically as it relates to my why as to why I started the Beauty Genie. I recognized that there was a huge deficit as it pertained to accessibility, right? While in most urban neighborhoods, we may have a beauty supply store on every other corner, we have zero market share, right? We don't own any of the beauty supply stores. We don't own any of the distribution centers. We are not a key player. And so that was a little bit of the strategy behind the vision behind the brand is one, how can we make our products more accessible for our community? And how can we recycle the Black dollar, right? If we think about how long the Black dollar stays in the community, right? It's a very short period of time. And so since we are the largest consumers, if we look purely at data, if we look purely at the numbers, Black women are the largest consumers. And that's a problem why we have zero market share. That's a problem for me. And I'm sure it's a problem for all my other sisters on the panel. And so that was my, reasoning for starting this vision. and also helping other emerging brands, right? Like this is just another additional retail outlet space. This is a way for you to get in front of that Gen Z consumer market space, and you don't have to have a brick and mortar, right? A vending machine you can place almost anywhere, and you're still getting that same service.
I really love what you're doing in terms of innovating in this space. It really does a service, like you said, to the accessibility of beauty products. And you're also helping these brands that may not have the budget to necessarily distribute through a major retailer still get that exposure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this actually lends beautifully to my next question, which is for Candace. So through MYAVANA's AI technology and hair and beauty network ecosystem, what insights are you seeing about consumer responses to the changing retail landscape?
Yeah, it's very interesting because this is actually a pattern in the market of emotional reactions to things, and then what is the true pivotal change that is actually happening. And to give an example of this pattern is like it's a similar pattern when companies get acquired, right? So when we find out that a company is now acquired and is no longer Black owned, we're ready to boycott. We're ready to, tell people how we feel. We're ready to go off on the internet, right? And this is that same pattern. Now, I always say that it's warranted because as a consumer, we have the right to spend our money how we choose, right? And especially in our market, when we talk about equity and ownership, we have wanted ownership in a market that belongs to us and is generated by us, right? So I absolutely get it. And everyone deserves to spend their money how they choose. Now, if we take a step back, sometimes we have to really understand what is truly happening in this time of transformation in our industry, but also in our government, because this is a response to a governmental change and whole administration change. So, what are they actually doing? I always tell people, let's take a step back and ask, what's really happening here, right? Sometimes we have to take that lens, and it actually reveals something going back to the earlier point about our supply chain. One thing we realized very early on for MYAVANA in building our business, there was an ecosystem, but it was heavily fragmented. And so that's why we saw pretty clearly to deliver personalized recommendations, we actually have to first build this ecosystem so that we can work with the brands, work with the retailers, work with the salons. But then we quickly saw how the equity and ownership across the board, we were kind of stuck at the consumer level and we were not at the decision-making level at these companies. And that was very eye-opening. So then I realized, okay, there's a whole other dynamic happening in our industry, and it's actually what we're seeing now. And what it is, it's policy changes at a level that we're on the passive end of it, and we're not at the decision-making table of it, meaning, do we have someone in the government administration? Do we have someone on the board of these retailers or on the executive teams? And so that's kind of all the things that we saw in building MYAVANA, that there has to be some intentionality about the equity and ownership across the supply chain. But then as we look at each of the sectors, what happens when a change affects consumer behavior? And that's basically what we're seeing now. And this diversity, equity, and inclusion change, it affects how we want to spend our money. It does. Mm-hmm. So how does that affect the whole behavior change? And it started to pushed us to incorporate things like on your product preferences. Do you want to shop with brands that are Black owned, that are women owned, that are, all the affinities? But I think ultimately what we're seeing now is who controls our supply chain, and how does that affect what controls our dollars, and how we want to spend. And we have to acknowledge that that is a part of the decision-making process for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Now, Diane, I'll throw it back to you because I want you to be able to share your insight on this as well. But as both a brand owner now in Target and a beauty supply store owner, how are you thinking about multi-channel strategy in the current retail climate?
Still can't hear you. No.
Yeah. Hold on, let me try something.
I wonder if, let's see, edit mic settings.
Yeah, I'll try to look into that too.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's not a coincidence because we want to hear these insights.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
She's living out what we're talking about in this moment. So we're going to figure it out.
Try logging in from your phone. Yeah.
can you log in from your phone?
I'll text her.
Okay. She's on mute now, but. Okay. So that's okay. Diane, we are going to hear what you have to say. That's for sure. Even if I gotta keep coming back to you, we're gonna
The
get
warfare is real.
You're right. Okay. So while we try to figure that out, I'm going to go over to Khadijah.
Yes.
So what conversations are happening in your wellness community about the impact of shifting corporate DEI priorities on Black women entrepreneurs and executives?
Yes, so I'm going to piggyback off of what Candace said. Initially, it is something that is an emotionally ridden response. So we do, of course, work with like we work with like the holistic approach to mind, body, soul when it comes to like the salon. So I am the founder of Classic Beauty Studio, which is a wellness / clean beauty salon located in Brooklyn, New York. And typically, the women that we do focus on are women that shop different retails, of course, Target, Walmart's, all the big like major spaces. So we do see that like given this change, there is a lot of like emotional uproar about it. So we are taking all of that into consideration. In the salon, we do retail design essential. We also carry pattern as well as far as our back bar. So we are trying to bridge the gap with what's going on right now as far as like in the salon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we definitely we create spaces for women of color at the salon. So our retail areas are definitely open for different amazing like beauty brands, such as like, again, pattern or design essential, that are women or Black owned. So we definitely like to push that on our retail shelves throughout the salon. But it is something that is definitely alarming. If we are not being able to see these type of companies or representation on our shelves, it definitely limits the up and coming beauty brands that's coming into the market. So we definitely want to give more, again, representation to those brands and to like Black owned or women owned companies coming after as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
All right, Diane, let's try you again.
Unmute.
You're on mute.
Unmute.
Oh, try it again.
Uh-oh. That's so odd because it worked. Can't hear you, babe.
The anticipation is just
Try to
rising.
unmute one more time.
Oh, something's going on.
He just doesn't want to stay.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's so
Oh,
unusual.
man. Like, why all of a sudden it wants to act up? It was perfectly fine before. All right. Well, for our audience, I'm seeing some great comments coming in. If you've changed your shopping habits in response to recent retail shifts, share your experience in the comments.
Hmm.
And this will actually lead us into segment 2, which will cover entrepreneurial resilience. So now that we've established the current landscape, let's talk about resilience and adaptation. We want to hear how you're adapting too in the audience. What innovative solutions have you found, and what are you currently using? Share that in the comments as well. Adapting too in the audience.
Mhm. And Diane, check your mic permissions. I don't know if there's a pop-up showing about enabling your mic permissions. Because I definitely want to get into this question because
I know.
different brands are definitely experiencing different things.
Yeah.
So,
It's saying that her mic isn't connected because I'm trying to unmute her on my end.
She's using 2 different devices.
But yeah, like Candace said, if the permissions may not have been granted.
Yeah, I'll text her again.
Okay. But now that we're okay. Okay, I'm gonna come back to Diane again. I'm not letting these questions go. I'm gonna add.
Can you talk? Let me see.
But in the meantime, Melissa, so
Yes.
how are you advising Black-owned brands about diversifying their retail strategies in the current environment?
Great question. I spend my everyday working with Black women-led brands, beauty, wellness, and lifestyle. And I can tell you that the appetite for growth in retail is always there. I mean, it is the best way to, to really see the full breadth and depth of what your brand and your business is capable of doing. Retail is the path. And so while we recognize that it's really challenging, I still find that a lot of brands are optimistic. I want to say, though, just on the Target end specifically, one of the challenges with this DEI rollback and the protests against it, it's interesting because our 2 buyers at TJ Maxx are Black women. When we went to shoot our commercial at a local Target here in Culver City, it was a Black woman that gave us the permission. When we ran over our time in shooting our commercial, it was a Black man that stood by us and made sure that his team didn't bother us. And when we think about the impact that this protest is having, both internally and externally, it's quite problematic. When you peel back the layers of DEI, you think about who actually benefit the most.
That's a great question.
It's not us.
Exactly.
Forbes, a quick Google search will tell you. Forbes, CNN has written many articles, especially in recent times, about who benefits the most, but yet we're the loudest on this issue. And we know, again, that we are the most educated. We are also the fastest group of entrepreneurs. Nothing about us has benefited from DEI because those numbers really demonstrate that. But yet, we're the loudest in this protest. So it's really disappointing to me that we're focusing our energies on this. in addition to the spiritual community sort of having this fast and all the things, which in my opinion is not a God-driven, initiative, but that's a different conversation. I just feel that you need to lead about 100,000 souls to God, not spend at retail.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is that who are we following in this whole thing?
Ooh.
Who are we listening to? Other people or to ourselves?
Mm.
And so as a Black woman, I'm a Black woman first, and I'm a mom and a business, all the things, right? And so I understand the nuances of life and showing up. Ooh, Diane, did I hear a voice?
Oh, can y'all
There
hear
we
me?
go.
Stop talking.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
I'm so sorry.
Come back to me, but I think we need to let Diane get in.
Yes,
I need the ghetto of it all, ladies.
We give you grace. We give you grace.
Yes. So,
Woo, Lord knows I have a lot to say about this topic.
please,
For
please.
Well, the floor is yours.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you want to go back to your first question that I could not answer, Cole?
Sure, I can do that.
In your eloquent way that I have just jacked up the whole hour.
It's okay.
So the first question was, what does this milestone represent for Black entrepreneurship in today's retail environment?
Yeah. It's not just a matter of distribution. Distribution is great. Yes, it is. And it's going to help us grow and help us scale. But it's really monumental, because if you think about the standing that we have as Black founders in an industry that has been built and owned by the Korean community, it says so much. It says that Black women are making strides, that we are taking back an industry that we built. And if we have to do it with Target or Walmart or Costco or CVS or TJ Maxx or whoever it is, we should be celebrating that. Right. And I feel like our culture as a whole is so selective in what we protest and how we protest it, because I'm also a retail owner. So if you go back to when George Floyd was assassinated, he was assassinated, yes. Right? And we saw tremendous support for about 3 or 4 months. And then everybody went back to Target. They went back to Amazon. They went back to shopping wherever they shop. And we're not judging them because of that. But I feel like our judgment is so unnecessary and so unfair. And furthermore, if we just talk a little bit about DEI, right? If we just talk about what it is and who it really benefits and what do we want from it? Because going back to George Floyd being assassinated, what we wanted was police reform. What we wanted was for Black men to be able to walk the street and be safe. What I wanted was to raise 4 Black grandsons and for them to be okay. And then me not to have to put a business card to a criminal attorney in their wallets when they grow up. So if they get stopped, they know what to do. Don't call me. Call the man on his card. That's who you call first, right? That's what we wanted. What we ended up getting was a lot of companies talking about DEI and programs that did not even benefit us. So what is the outrage about? That's what I don't understand.
I agree with that. Every fight is not our battle. Every fight is not our battle. It is not.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit to that, because I do see both sides, but it does go back to Melissa's question about who are we really following, right? Because the uproar, it is contagious. Like, it is what it is, because again, we have so much unhealed trauma when it comes to how we have been disenfranchised as a culture.
Yes.
And ultimately, this is something I learned spiritually with George Floyd's murder, is that capitalism is being dismantled in our country. A lot of worldly, wicked systems are being dismantled in our country. Now, we have to really examine what is driving these things, because, to be honest, after I've done my research, it wasn't Target. it was the administration's mandates on what can now be considered under federal policies of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what are the ramifications if a company is using any of those terms. So now the politics of it is really about language, that this administration is trying to eliminate anything that is a proponent of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what do these corporations have to do? They have to respond. And what I'm seeing across the board is they are all protecting their own political interests at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Because, and I learned this from Georgia Tech this week and JP Morgan Chase, that they are all being federally mandated to change their language.
Yes.
Like remove everything that has any mention of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is insane at the end of the day. If you really think about it, it's like,
It is.
It is. Like Georgia Tech, they have 600,000 websites that has these terms that now have to be scraped. Now, the question is, what does the leadership of these companies, what do they really stand for? And that's where you have to have a personal and business relationship with these corporations to understand where do they really stand. Because I had opportunity to be in a reception with the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and he said it very clearly. He said, do not be emotional about these changes. These are just policy changes that we have to adjust to. Now, they have a program that is called Advancing Black Pathways. They're very clear about that, right? And he said, what he said was, now it's called Advancing Pathways. They're still focused on Black entrepreneurs, but it's like their language now has to change.
Yes.
So what you have to really examine is, what is this leadership actually standing for? And just what I've read about Target, you know, if you look at what they're pulling back on and what they're still standing for, what they've publicly said is that they're for inclusion, but belonging. All right. Because again, it's like all about the language now. And so much so that, you know, now there are ramifications if they use other language. So like, you know, we've heard the phrase, the devil's in the details. It's like, okay, before we, again, start our boycotts and everything, we have to understand what's really going on. But I still believe that the way we spend our dollars has to align with the values of these organizations. And that's what we have to take a closer look at.
But if you think about like holding corporations accountable, right? Let's just take DEI out of the equation. And if the conversation is really about holding these corporations accountable, shouldn't the same be said for holding our communities accountable for the business that we make? Because I'm really focused on not putting a lot of energy behind this DEI conversation. Instead, I want to put my focus and my energy behind making sure that it's smart to do business with Diane Valentine, that it is smart. It is smart to do business with Glow and Flow Beauty, because that is the only thing that is sustainable. We don't
Absolutely.
We don't have our own mega stores, our own Targets,
right,
our own CVSs. And I understand that as a consumer, they want convenience. I understand that. As much as I'm going to scream Glow and Flow, I know that there are people that will not support us because they will not get in their car and drive to one of our locations. They have that right? But I also have a right to say, you're dumb if you're not doing business with Glow and Flow and Slay Hair. And here's why. Because we are good for business.
Yes.
Right? Black people spending money is good business for Target. Target having Black brands on the shelves is good business for them.
Absolutely.
Right? They can't start. They've made so many strides with welcoming, particularly Black beauty founders on shelves. So for them to take them away, that doesn't make sense, because they want Black women to have one more reason to come into their stores. So why did they logically remove that? It's the same conversation that I have with our Black consumers at our retail stores about Mael. When anyone talks about that whole controversy, I'm immediately like, why would you think that? Why would you think because somebody has a platform and they said it, suddenly now it's right? So I feel like, in this whole conversation, I think it's okay for us to make our community accountable for the things they say, the things they do. Most importantly, what they do not do. We need to hold the community accountable for what they don't do. They don't support Black brands as a way of life. We do it. We do it when there's an uproar in the community.
Yes, when it's trendy.
When it's popular. We do it when brands are the place to be and they're popping and all of that. But that's not sustainable, which is why our community cannot seem to make strides in our community. It's why we have individual billionaires, but we don't have billionaire communities.
Oh, say that again.
Yeah.
That is right, baby.
Disparity in our own community.
The one thing that I want to say too, in terms of like what Diane said is golden, right? And then there's what Candace had talked about too, in terms of what the emotional aspect, and thinking about, for me, when I listen and I read a lot of the comments, I'm seeing a lot of things that tells me that our community needs to be more business savvy and financially, just financial awareness needs to be heightened a little bit more. I think that we need to understand language, but also the written language. One of the things that I learned this week is grants are being targeted by language that is used in your application. There's about 40 words that you can no longer say. Some of them are what we do every day. We serve underrepresented underrepresented is on the list. Multicultural is on the list. Historic is on the list. There's 40 of them. Go out and do your own research. And we know that bootstrap Black brands get a lot of their non-dilutive funds from where? Grants. Yep. So we now have to change how we write, how we apply to these different grants and these programs that are being funded. Here's why: because AI is reading all of it. And so when people tell me, they're like, oh, I've been trying to apply for a job for a very long time. And, and then their applications or their resumes or even their cover letters are filled with language that's flagging AI. That's why you don't get the opportunity. It's not you. You just haven't caught up to the time, the policy, the technology, as well as the information that's going to help you to be a bit more successful. So for me, as someone who's a champion and an advocate and an advisor for brands, like I try to do my best to take what I learned from being in rooms that they may not be able to be in and bring it back so that they can continue to be better stewards of their business and their brands. But again, there are a lot of very, very savvy beauty founders like Diane who day in and day out breathe their business, their industry. They're reading, they go places that they get uncomfortable so that they can have a stronger business and stronger brand. And that's why we're so passionate about it. So while I understand the other side of the concern around whether we are going to spend our dollars in places that may or may not support us, then we might as well not get out of bed. We might as well not. There's an entire world surrounding us and working overtime so that we are continue to be marginalized and basically disappear. So I just, my perspective is a bit well-rounded, but I do know that my heart and posture is that we would become more knowledgeable so that we can fight these moments very differently in the future.
For sure. And I do want to say that, as Diane mentioned, that we are very valuable. So we have to just we have to take that into consideration, is that if we are not in these stores, that they probably won't get the type of business as if we were. So just being in an opportunity in a space to also be able to shelf other brands and just being able to do work in the community. I think just having beauty supply stores that are also Black owned, or salon environments that are also that can shelf these type of beauty products is very, very helpful. We don't have to depend or rely on these big conglomerate like stores to even have our names be in the, or our brands be in the consumer. Like we can definitely do this on our own as well. So I'm just like a big proponent of creating opportunities in the community for ourselves as well.
Absolutely. Start thinking more as a collective unit, right? And so it's more like collaboration over competition. And I just wish more of us got that, right? You know, we're so used to not having much. So when we get a little piece of a pie, we think we're not gonna get any more, right? So, you know, it's like being a little kid and you want to hurry up and eat that slice really quick because you don't think you're gonna get any more. And it's that same mentality. And if you think about, again, back to both Diane's comment about being of value, whenever another group feels threatened, how do they usually react, right? And this is a prime example. This is a prime example of white male privilege, right? It's a prime example of the word I love to use, people having, you know, caucasity, right? I mean, it really is the caucasity of it, you know, and it's like, you know, the reason that the new administration, and I am in the federal government, right? Like I service government clients every day. And so I am well aware of the true underlining message, right? So it's like when you feel threatened or you feel inferior towards another group, what do you try to do? Eliminate it, right? Eliminate their access. And so that's really all that is. But to me, this is just reaffirming that we need to get our stuff together, right? This is just saying, you know what, y'all been talking for how long? Y'all been talking for decades. We've been saying the same story. We've been singing the same song. We've been holding hands and doing kumbaya. How much longer, you know, how much longer we gonna keep singing the same song? And start really putting words into action. So this is just validation, confirmation for me, is that one, I'm on the right path. Okay, they see us. They see me. Okay, you see me over here. I mean, that really all that is just, okay, Eb, you on the right path. Keep going. Keep pushing. And back to what, you know, Kadisha said is start thinking more as a collective unit, because the more we pull our resources together, we really don't need anybody else.
We don't.
We don't need anyone else.
Exactly.
We have everything that we need. We have everything that we need.
Absolutely. And this
I
actually
believe that, and I believe the six of us believe that, right? But we know, because Diane and I, we work very closely together, and you know, from the beginning of SLAY and her intention around working with other Black-owned businesses and collaborating and things. You know, it hasn't been the best success, right? And I think that when we talk about collective consciousness and cooperative economics and all those things, I really wish that not only did we believe it, but we actually did it. And I think that if once we understand that no one's coming to save us, and I think unfortunately, much of what's happening right now is probably the kick in the butt that perhaps we may need. And I don't even know if that's good enough, because I do think that we perform so well for a short period of time, and then we get back to things as usual. And so we, you know, I have a lot of faith that we will get there, and I have a lot of faith that many are thinking more about this collaborative and this collective nature about how we support each other, and also not gatekeeping, and being able to share the code and give up, you know, that information and share that, you know, share that resource and those types of. Diane talks about that all the time, and it's like we need more of that, but let's talk and more action on it.
Absolutely.
And forums like this and conversations like this really help, obviously, to help to send that, continue to reinforce that message and that need, because again, no one is coming to save us.
No, ma'am.
We're planting a seed right now. We're planting a seed, and I feel like even having these type of conversations are going to get us like to the next step. So even if people, maybe we believe that we can create our own opportunities and we don't need to rely on big companies, but by having these conversations, our influence, the communities that we reach, we can continue to like continue this initiative amongst other people. And, again, we're planting a seed, we continue to water it, and it will grow. That's my thought.
And, I have to say, I respectfully disagree, because I do think we need more than just community. Because the reason I say that is because I know our consumers. I have been in beauty now 5 years, and 5 years as a business owner, not a beauty, somebody who was passionate about beauty, or a hairstylist or a service provider, but truly a business owner. And I know our consumer. I know what that, our everyday consumer is looking for. They're looking for convenience, and they are incredibly price sensitive. And I know that girls that live in Inglewood, in the local community in LA, what's considered an urban community, are going to come and spend more money with us every month than any of my friends that live on the West Side or Beverly Hills or Bel Air or anywhere else, because they are not going to inconvenience themselves to be intentional about buying their beauty products with me. They're going to go to Target. They're going to go to Amazon. They're going to go whatever is within their sphere of travel that is convenient for them. And so for Black brands, for my brand, for our Black beauty brands to grow and scale, we need distribution. We need wide distribution. We need to be in Black and brown neighborhoods throughout the world, period.
Oh, absolutely.
Because convenience, we don't want to pay for a shipping fee. We don't want to spend that. And so that is the reality. That is the reality. So I cannot sit here and say, all I need is Black owned beauty supply stores, because that's a whole nother story that I won't get into today. However, I know that when I launched Slay, they were not there to support us. Now, Black end users were. Black women love the product. Black women know that it fills a need and fixes a void that was needed and a problem within our community. But what do I need to do? I need to make it more convenient for Black women to support Slay. And unfortunately, that has not come through Black channels.
So I will say that, just piggybacking off of that, we're like in $1 billion industry when it comes to social media and its marketing efforts. Like, the Gen Zers are doing an amazing thing when it comes to like taking the platform and taking it digital. So what I think can really, really like also bridge the gap is being able to see e-commerce be pushed even more. So like Amazon's, like if we can take as like Black founders and take it on e-commerce and do something that's very similar to make it convenient, even a subscription base, I think that can be really, really cool. Also like what MYAVANA is doing by recommending other Black owned, or even having the kiosks that you guys have in other Black owned salons or beauty supply stores, by recommending to shop there compared to the big stores, I feel like it's really cool. So e-commerce can also bridge the gap as well. And it's convenient. It's very convenient for us to do that.
Yes.
Well, the thing is that all brands started e-commerce. I mean, that's a very, that's the entry point. However, as Diane was saying, the traffic on your own direct to consumer, if you're not buying ads, and if you don't have the big megaphone in terms of being an influencer, or you have the virality, if you're an emerging brand or small Black brand, you don't get to see the volume on your direct to consumer channel that unless you pay for it. And, we've had 2 really groundbreaking moments with Slay. We launched at TJ Maxx and Marshalls first within Slay's first 3 months of launching in the marketplace. And that relationship with TJ Maxx and Marshalls has grown exponentially through Slay and their team commitment to serving their partnership with TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And the first braiding hair, the first dry goods, the dry goods, it's called dry goods category in TJ Maxx's history, by the way. They've never carried hair in their stores. And 3,500 doors around the country. Now we're looking at some international play with Slay with TJ Maxx and Marshalls, but it's an incredible channel. All over TikTok, women are discovering hair in TJ Maxx, and that is a phenomenal thing. That then led to the Target launch. And now we have another area of distribution, an opportunity with Target. 200 stores growing into a lot more come May, and you know, and so the growth there, again, it's to the commitment and the diligence and the business acumen of Diane and her team. Every relationship partnership requires both parties to do their job, and that's the piece that I think that when we think about the desire to be at retail as a founder, it's more than just a desire. Do you have the capability to get there and to stay there? And then that is because, so as Diane said, consumers are there. They're going to look for the convenience of a TJ Maxx and a Marshalls and a Target. However, Diane's direct-to-consumer channel has grown. Why? Because she's also spending dollars there on digital ads and also learning. She put herself through her own accelerator so she can be capable of understanding digital advertising. Many, more founders are thinking about, trimming the fat, meaning becoming more knowledgeable, but that does take time and some resources. But I agree that it is both, but all brands started direct to consumer, and many of them don't get to see the kind of revenue and the traffic unless they expand to what we call omni-channel opportunities. So that is obviously retail, other e-commerce sites, certainly the MYAVANA now ecosystem that Candace is building. And all of these channels really help to brands to expand. It's not just one way. And I do think that, especially for those who are looking for longevity in this industry, it has to be omni-channel.
Definitely. Just to add to that, we really have to look at the whole supply chain, honestly, because we are at a time of innovation. And just to speak to that, we were very intentional about starting our Retail Innovation Academy for that reason, because number one, we absolutely want to support our Black-owned beauty supply stores and bringing technology and innovation in the same way that we would bring to an enterprise retailer like Ulta, like Target, like any other. The key shift here, and if we could really harness our potential, meaning our $1 trillion spending power potential, we could really change some things, but it's going to take major strategy to get there. Even in this whole reckoning, it was pointed out that honestly, in the Black community, the last successful organizing movement was the Montgomery bus boycott. And when did that happen?
Oh, Lord, too long ago.
Right. So if we think about now, what could we really do with the tools and the things that's right in our hands, right? We do have to look at the overall distribution of products and reaching our customers, because one of the major reasons why the Retail Innovation Academy is important to us is because Black-owned beauty supply stores, we lost distribution in the 80s to Asian communities. So when we look at the infrastructure of our supply chain, there were very intentional efforts to remove that distribution and access. So we're in a process of reclaiming that. We're doing that through technology, because the ultimate goal for MYAVANA is to become the Amazon of hair care. Meaning, if we're providing recommendations to someone who lives in LA or Inglewood, right in Diane's backyard, her recommendations are going to come from Glow and Flow. Right? And knowing the power that we have when we have the relationship with the consumer. Because another sensitive thing here is who owns the relationship, right? Because there's several brands on Amazon who now have certain challenges, because when you're on certain retail platforms, you may not own your customer data, right? And so there are a lot of things that we need to look at, but I do believe that it's showing us a blueprint on how we take back our industry, because that is the big goal. And so for us, knowing that distribution is the ultimate goal, what we decided from what our retail play will be to open up our own distribution channel for Black-owned hair care brands with the opening of our store in Uganda. And again, that was very intentional too, to open up global markets. Right? and to again think about there's a whole population of women who are waiting on us, waiting on our
Entire population, right?
entire, I mean,
Exactly.
you know, so we have to open up our minds, because it is, again, it's about identifying the channels to reach our customers, but how do we own them so that we're not at the whim of a corporation's decision, right?
Exactly.
Because we are now at their mercy of what their decisions are. So it's a strategy, right? It's a takeover strategy.
Absolutely.
You know, and we have to leverage the existing infrastructure, but we have to keep the big goal in mind and make sure that we are moving collectively towards that goal.
Yes.
All right, ladies. Well, we are at time, but as we wrap up this powerful discussion, I want to thank our incredible panelists for sharing their wisdom and experiences. The retail landscape continues to evolve, but tonight has shown that our community's innovation, resilience, and unity drive meaningful progress. The historic achievement of Slay Hair entering Target demonstrates that breakthroughs are possible even in challenging times. Before we go, let me ask each panelist for one takeaway for our audience. So Candace, I'll start with you.
Wow, I would say one takeaway, let's take a step back and let's look at what is our end goal and what is our strategy to get there. Because I do believe that every time something like this happens, it is an opportunity for us to shift. Now, are we really going to shift, or are we going to go back into our old patterns, right? And I hope that as a collective, as a community, we use this opportunity to shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Melissa, how about you?
You know, I heard a lot of conversation of the comparison between the Montgomery bus boycott and this. Direct apples and oranges. Anyone who understands what the Montgomery bus boycott entailed for those 381 days, this is not it. What I do know about that led to real legal and systemic changes. This is just sitting at home and not buying something. This is not it. And I think that where we spend our energy, and when we think about what is a goal that is sustainable, impactful, and benefits us on the other side of this, that is where I would hope that our consciousness starts to shift. Let's not be performative. Let's not be pushed to follow, be sheeps of individuals whose values may not align with us for the sake of getting on board. I have lost some relationships during this time because many of them question my loyalty to the movement.
Goodness.
And it's okay. And it's okay. I have dealt with loss and gain and all of that my entire life and my entire career. And I know that who is for me and what is for me is going to be for me. And so if you can't keep the right relationships in tough times, then they didn't belong there anyway. Right. And so I have seen behavior shift and change. And I just want us collectively, if the Black women are driving this protest and this movement, led by a few men who want to, infuse. But if you think about these protests and these shifts towards these lists, who's getting all that data? If 100,000 people are signing up to protest for 40 days, who gets all of that data? And what are they going to do to it afterward?
Right.
And I want us to think about, just be smarter. Pause. Be like Candace. She's just like, I'm gonna pray about this first before I make a move. Like,
take it to the Lord.
Just take a step back, my people. Just take a step back and think about your children, your children's children. Think about the impact that you're having on owners and employees when all these companies that you're fighting against. There's no long-term goal or strategy in this current fight, but let's find one that is.
Yes.
Amen.
That's good.
Yes.
Khadija, I'm gonna go to you next.
Yes. So my takeaway would definitely be that this, again, is a seed. And my hopes is that we continue to have this conversation so that way we can revolutionize, just like we were talking about the boycotts. It's a revolutionary act that we decide to not rely on DEI initiatives to feed our families, to make sure that we are like pushing the Black dollar, so that way we create our own opportunities. So like, even if that looks like digital or social media performance, social media initiatives, like we want to make sure that we don't rely on those conglomerates to get us places, and that we're like revolutionizing the retail markets on our own. So these conversations helps us to do that. And even, yes, it's convenient. I love shopping convenient, like personally, but being able to have these conversations and again, shift the community is very important. And how can we make that convenient for us as well, by creating our own ways and our own paths is important.
Well, and I think
Agreed.
that goes right to you, Ebony.
All right. I would say Black people have always been innovators, specifically Black women. We have always been in the forefront of innovation and creation, if we want to take it there. Okay. So I think if we just continue to explore non-traditional methods like we are very familiar with, right? We've always made a way out of no way. Um, and back to what Melissa said earlier, is learn what battles are ours, right? Stop jumping on the front line when somebody waves a red flag and says it's danger. Now, is it danger for us or dangerous for you, right? Because I'm on the side of my people. And so I think if we just remain diligent in that, right? And just think intelligently, right? Like let's put our thinking caps on. This is what I say to my students all the time. Put your thinking caps on, and ask yourself, how does that affect me and my community? And then, that gives you the answer.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Miss Diane.
My words are for any person of color, specifically, I should say Black people, is that we must be steadfast in knowing what our value is. And it doesn't matter if you are an entrepreneur or if you are a vice president working in a Fortune 500 company in a C-suite and you are VP of DEI. It does not matter. Is that what matters is that we are creating value with every room that we are in so that our presence is undeniable. That is how we make strides. Melissa Hibbert is so valuable to our journey. Like, I literally don't know how we could continue to move forward without her presence, right? MYAVANA technology is so viable. It is so important to the retail landscape and to Glow and Flow and to our trajectory as a franchise and where we're going and where we're building. That alignment is so necessary that I need to stay close to her. I need to stay close to that technology. So what I have just focused on is making sure that it is good business to be in business with us, that it is good business, that it is smart for Black women to choose Slay Hair, not because we're Black owned, but because we have a superior product and we are fixing a problem that you have dealt with for years, right? It is important. It is smart for Target. It is smart for TJ Maxx to be in business with us. And it is smart for these corporations to be in business with Black beauty founders because no one knows the needs of Black women like Black women.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No one can tell a Black story the way Black women can tell a Black story. So I would just say, in the words of the great poet, Sean J.Z. Carter, I am not a businessman, I am a businessman.
Hello.
Thank you for all of those insights. Thank you all. You can connect with all of our amazing panelists through the social media handles displayed on their name tags. To our brand founders in the audience, this is your moment to plug into something bigger. MYAVANA's Hair and Beauty Network is actively expanding our ecosystem of innovative beauty entrepreneurs. So schedule a call with us at myavana.com to learn how you can be a part of this movement. We're building this community together, and your engagement makes a difference. So please take a moment to like this video, share it with other beauty entrepreneurs and enthusiasts, subscribe to our channel for monthly virtual hair club discussions, and turn on your notifications to stay updated on our next panel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
One last thing, before we go, I want to have our audience drop a crown emoji in the comments if tonight's discussion inspired you, and share one action you'll take based on what you learned.
I love that. Yes.
Next month, we'll be back with another crucial conversation that celebrates the women of our community who are currently making history in the beauty tech industry. Thank you for being a part of this important dialogue. And remember, in times of change, our unity is our strength. Good night. And
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us.